Like I said, thanks again to you guys that took to the Facebook page for OTRS Central and posted all your questions. Had so many of them, I thought it was only right to break this up into two parts. So while I won't get to everybody's questions, I can get to more of your questions than I usually would. So let's dive right in. Joey Thorpe, do you think WWE only try hard enough at certain times of the year, i.e., WrestleMania, SummerSlam season? Sure. Sure, their effort could be much more consistent across the board at all times. Now, to be fair to them, it's just like for all of us in the working world, there are times where we try hard, not so hard. We try harder based off of deadlines. And, we'll sit there and say, well, we can't get this done in this amount of time, but then we end up doing it anyways. When the company says you put in consistent effort all the time, but there's always more you could do or less that you could do. It's a natural lulls, peaks and valleys. So I don't necessarily always knock the WWE for that, even though that doesn't mean that they need to put forth minimum effort. I just understand sometimes if they don't put in maximum effort all the time, because it's hard to put in maximum effort all the time because eventually you'll get burnt out. Sometimes you do get into that coast mode, and I understand it. Mark Ariano, with Guardians of the Galaxy being a big hit, if Batista were to come back tomorrow, would the fans love him or still hate him like his last run? Part of the reason fans hated him in the first run was simply because they expected Daniel Bryan to be in the Royal Rumble match, win the Royal Rumble match, and they felt like Batista was the big obstacle to that. People were excited about Batista coming back, and then once they realized what that actually meant, they weren't digging it so much anymore. So, we got to keep that in perspective. It depends on who they would send Batista at and for what reason. Like if they were to send him at Brock Lesnar, let's say, he might still get booed. But if they send him at Cena, he'd probably get roundly cheered. Nick Perkins, do you think GFW will even be a real thing or just a bunch of talk from Jeff Jarrett? At this point in time, just a bunch of talk from Jeff Jarrett trying to promote Jeff Jarrett. Frankly, I don't see any reason to believe any different. Um, Dylan Haggett asked, I've seen people say the Attitude Era the best tag team division, and my rebuttal is simply Survivor Series 1987-88 when they did 5 heel tag teams versus 5 face tag teams. Do you agree? I actually agree that during the Hogan era, the tag team division was a little deeper and a little better, but it wasn't that much better. The Attitude Era still had a really good tag team division, but I do happen to think with teams like, at different times, you had the British Bulldogs, the Hart Foundation, Demolition, the Rockers, the Orient Express. You had the Powers of Pain. I'd go on and on and on. The Can-Am Connection, Strike Force. Again, I'd go on and on and on. I just thought during that time there were more quality tag teams. Mega Powers. Just saying. Brian Borland. It was never going to happen, but could a Miss Elizabeth heel turn have worked at WrestleMania 5? No, it wouldn't have. Not the right time, not the right place. I don't think that would have worked. I really don't. I could be totally wrong. It might have worked splendidly, but at that point in time, I just don't see how the dynamics of that would have worked. Let's see here. Micah Issa Muhammad, in your opinion, who are the top 10 most overrated wrestlers of all time? Oh, God. Why do you ask me like these top 10 ones, knowing that I have to go through here and I got to think of this stuff off the top of my head? Perhaps to me, the most overrated wrestler of all time, actually, there's a couple of them right off the top of my head, are Triple H and HBK. I think HBK might be the most overrated. When they did that top 50 superstars list of all time and HBK was rated number 1, I said, get the fuck out of here. 4 of the best years in that company's history were the 4 years that Shawn Michaels missed with a back injury. I'm just keeping it real with you. A tremendous in-ring performer, maybe the greatest in-ring performer of all time, the greatest superstar of all time. Get the fuck out of here. I mean, didn't that list have John Cena rated ahead of Hulk Hogan? Had Eddie Guerrero, I think, or was it Rey Mysterio, or both listed ahead of Hulk Hogan? Oh, Christ almighty. Um, but those would be 2 overrated wrestlers. Immediately come to mind would be HBK and Triple H. I think Cena's obviously incredibly overrated, more so by the WWE than anybody else. Yeah, I'll go with those guys. I'm not going to go through all 10. Tane Nakora, worst show put on by the original ECW. Hmm, can't remember. I'd really have to think about that one. So sorry, I don't have a better answer for you. Sorry, I don't. Samwise Kindle. Considering that Devin Hester just broke Deion Sanders' record for career returns, is he a Hall of Famer? I'm not buying it. I don't see it because Ray Guy just got in to the Hall of Fame after almost what was it? Almost 30 years after he last played in the NFL. It took Ray Guy, the unanimously viewed greatest punter in NFL history, almost 30 years after his playing career was over, to finally get in via your senior committee vote. If you put Devin Hester in, then what are you going to do with like Steve Tasker and that type of guy? I don't disagree that special teams is an incredibly important part of the game, but Devin Hester, I'm not buying it. You got what, one kicker, like full-time kicker in the Hall of Fame. I'm not counting Lou Groza because he had a lot of years as a lineman. But you got Jan Stenerud, who I think is one of the worst Hall of Famers there is, frankly. I just don't see why he was so special that he had to be a Hall of Famer. Then you got Ray Guy. I'm not buying it. I'm just not buying it at this point. Juan Carlos Alcantara. How far do you see Kevin Steen going in WWE? That's a good question. I'm just not sure the WWE is going to get it with him. And I'm not sure if the WWE is going to book him with a character or give him a character that will translate well to the big time. Now, I could be wrong. Bray Wyatt's an example of a guy that kind of looked like that they did well with for a period of time, but I'm not sure. Depends on what they do with Kevin Steen's character. If his character in WWE is going to mirror what he did on the independent scene, how willing are they going to be to go with that? Are they going to try and get him to go far away from that? A lot of that is yet to be determined. Nebek Sid, how would you have felt if the streak ended at the hands of Jeff Jarrett using a Michael Jordan autographed bat while wearing a number 23 MJ Washington Wizards jersey? And a lot of you thought this was funny because a lot of you thumbs this up like this is some type of clever thing. Well, Jeff Jarrett was never going to do that because they would never book him against The Undertaker at a WrestleMania. That's just stupid. About as stupid as ever putting him in the Four Horsemen. Oh, WCW did that. Be about as stupid as putting him in the NWO. Oh, WCW actually did that. Why would Michael Jordan autograph a baseball bat? Why would there ever be a number 23 Michael Jordan Washington Wizards jersey? Did Mr. Parkins send his British bootleg version over to Jeff Jarrett because of his incessant man crush for him? I don't really know. Ridiculous question! Greatest wrestling memes ask, or memes, whatever, fuck. As much as a good idea as it was on paper, was it really necessary for Vince to buy WCW back in 2001? I don't know if think of it being necessary or not, but it made a tremendous amount of business sense at that time and has paid off over the years. To pay a little under $5 million to get your hands on the WCW name and all of that video library, that was a pretty good investment. Shame on other people involved with professional wrestling not being able to team up and prevent that from happening. Daniel Isbor, I'll just repeat last week's question. Would you like to see Kurt Angle back in WWE? Depends. Long term, no. Maybe a short term thing? Yeah, sure, why not? Jared Anthony Simmons, do you think the Shield gimmick would have worked back in the Attitude Era with the Big Boss Man as the leader? That's an interesting idea. I think it would have had some possibilities. But at the time, there was so much Crash TV going on, I'm not sure that these guys would have stood out quite the same, and as a result, it might have come across as a bit of a jobber faction. Brandon Joyner, what if CM Punk and AJ Lee were given an Edge and Lita-like gimmick if they were still in the WWE? Your thoughts on it? I guess. You would have had to have had somebody involved, to really set that off. to where CM Punk stole AJ Lee from somebody. There were a lot of things that worked for the Edge and Elite apart. Michael Spence Jr., how bad do you think Cena will be booed when he eventually gets ducted into the Hall of Fame? That actually be kind of funny because it'll be his, last thing, his last big hurrah. And then at some point in time, there will be that ceremonial "Let's go Cena, Cena sucks" chant. That actually be kind of funny to see. I look forward to that someday, actually. Jon Snow, since it's been reported that WWE has little or no interest in signing Bully Ray or Kurt Angle, do you think Jeff Hardy would also get passed on if he wanted to return? Probably. Again, from WWE standpoint, what do you really need those guys for? What does a Bully Ray really bring to the table for you at this point in time? What does a Kurt Angle bring to the table for you at this point in time? Jeff Hardy, what does he bring to the table for you at this point in time? I could see them taking a pass on all of them, and I understand it. Kyrian George, is all hope lost for Bray Wyatt? All hope? No. Some hope? Yes. It's getting a little rough with him. I mean, he's not even booked on Night of Champions. This is supposed to be one of your foundation pieces for the long-term future, and you couldn't even find a way to get him on one of your more important shows of the year. Tim Solomon, what are your thoughts on Wrestling Society X that was on MTV, and did it have potential? I barely even remember it, so I have absolutely no thoughts about it, so it probably had no potential. James Kempster, do you think Lana should be Divas Champion? It would make sense because she's always talking about winning and she's smoking hot. I don't know if she's smoking hot. I don't know if I go that far. I understand based off of the competition in the WWE and that division that Lana might look better than a lot of the others. At this point in time, no, I think it makes more sense for her to do what she's doing with Rusev, honestly. Demetrius Blackwell, will The Undertaker accept Sting's challenge to face him at WrestleMania 31? I don't know, and I don't know if I care anymore. Honestly, I really don't. I mean, to me, the time for Sting and Taker was 27. Now we're talking about 31, 4 years later. Now Taker's streak is broken. Who gives a fuck? Sting had a few more years of TNA, so who really gives a fuck? I don't know, and like I said, I probably don't care. Let's see here. Konstantinos Papakostas. Should Mark Henry challenge Brock Lesnar for the title instead of Big Show? That's a shame about it. Again, you're going to put the belt on Lesnar. One of the factors and considerations you need to have is if you're going to do what you did with him against Cena, then who's he going to face afterwards? And here are Mark Henry and Big Show, two bigger-ass dudes, two legit guys that you would think could fuck with Brock Lesnar a little bit. But they bitched out both Big Show and Mark Henry so bad to Brock Lesnar over the course of the past year that I don't really even want to see either one of them challenging him for the title, because how would anybody get involved in it? It'd be more of the same, frankly. Daryl McWoods, is it just me or is it the fact that Punk and Bryan aren't on Raw anymore? The show has become so hard to watch every week. Oh, there's no question in my mind that losing Punk and then losing Daniel Bryan has taken a lot of steam and luster off of the product. You lose two of your top guys for extended periods of time, that's not going to help. And when you look at how 2014 was supposed to be positioned, it was going to be the year of Daniel Bryan, and most of the year of Daniel Bryan has not featured Daniel Bryan. I mean, think about that. Daniel Bryan has been off more than he's been on in 2014. So, that's true. Matthew Nepkin asked the last and probably funniest question. Theoretically, let's say Cena wins on Sunday. What do you think the reactions would be in and around the WWE universe? Pitchforks. Twitter riots. People crying. Smashing things. Oh, God, let it happen. Let's see how this shit goes down. Oh, man. You thought people were pissed about Daniel Bryan not winning the Royal Rumble or even being in it, or CM Punk losing the belt to The Rock. Imagine Cena beating Brock Lesnar after what happened at SummerSlam. Oh, fucking Christ. You already know what the reaction would be. Thanks again, you guys that submitted your questions for this Facebook Friday Q&A edition. If you didn't watch part 1, make sure you go back and watch part 1. This is part 2. We have some other content on this channel throughout the weekend, so stay tuned.